All right. Number stopped ticking up. So I will call to order the meeting of the Verona Plan Commission for Wednesday, November 4th at 6:31 p.m. We will begin with the roll.
Commissioner Tucker Long.
Here.
Commissioner Hankert. Here. Commissioner Hingle.
Here.
Mayor Diaz.
Here.
Commissioner Lytle.
Here.
Alderperson Cole.
Here.
Commissioner Powers.
Here. All right, we have quorum. That's excellent. We will move on to item 3, which is public comment. Mr. Sayer.
We did not have anyone register for specific public comments. We do have some people signed up for specific items that are on the agenda.
Excellent. Okay, when we get to the public hearings, then we'll call them up.
Yes.
With that, we'll move on to item 4, approval of the minutes from the October 5th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting. Questions, comments, or motions?
Move approval.
Motion by Alder Cole, seconded by Commissioner Tucker Long. Last chance for corrections of the minutes. Seeing no hands. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the October 5th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed, no. And that motion passes. We'll move on to item 5, which is a public hearing regarding a plan unit development, general development plan, and precise implementation plan review to construct a 2-story, 4,706 square foot building for a clinic and 2 apartments located at 300 East Verona Avenue. Before we get into the public hearing part of this, can we get a brief overview?
Thank you. This is a public hearing for a plan development. This is actually includes both the general development plan and the precise implementation plan. This does require a public hearing before the Planning Commission, which is we're doing now. Ultimately, this is a recommendation to the Common Council. If the Common Council approves both the general development plan and precise implementation plan, the applicant can ultimately go out and get building permits and start the project. As part of this, we did have a public hearing notice published in the newspaper. The project has been posted on the city's website. A public notification sign has been placed on the property, and then finally we did notify all property owners within 200 feet.
Excellent. With that, I will move that we open a public hearing regarding this topic for the general development plan at 121 and 125 Berkeley Road. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Hingle. All those in favor of opening the public hearing, say aye.
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 To clarify, Luke, did you mean 300 East Verona Avenue?
Oh, shoot. Yes, sorry. I switched from my phone to my iPad so I could see better. I beg your pardon. I will just disregard the previous thing I said. I will say I move that we open a public hearing regarding a general development plan and precise implementation plan for 300 East Verona Avenue. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Hingle. All those in favor of opening the public hearing on this topic, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And the public hearing is open at 6:34 p.m. Do we have speakers, Mr. Sayer?
We have 3 of them. First up is going to be Tim Hagan. Tim, I'm going to promote you into the meeting.
Whenever you're ready.
Tim, I don't see a microphone next to your name. Do you have something that you can unmute with? No. No? Yes? No? No. Okay. So, Tim, I'll come back to you as the third person. If you want to call in, and then when we get to you, when we call in, hit *6. Oh, wait. Try it now, Tim. I see a microphone now. Oh.
Can you hear me now?
There
Yes.
you go.
There we go.
All right. All right. Technology. It's a great thing, isn't it? I'll be very brief. I happen to be talking to the commission about another issue, but when I saw this was on the agenda, I had to speak up. Dr. Primusberger, Verona would be very, very fortunate not only to get her into Verona, but also her practice. I have nothing but positive things to say about Dr. Primusberger, and I wish her the best of luck, and hopefully this project that she has moves forward. And as a lifelong Verona resident, I completely support this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Who's next?
Next up, I have Floyd May.
Still can't hear you.
Can't hear you, Floyd.
The mute button went away, but
Can't hear you, Floyd. Do you want me to read your email, Floyd? Would you want me to do that? If you want me to read your email, nod your head. Okay, I'll read your email. You can kind of keep working on it as I read your email. If we get it worked out, you can speak then too. So just give me 1 second here. All right. This is from Floyd May. I'm requesting to speak at the virtual meeting tonight concerning 300 East Verona Avenue. My name is Floyd May. Points of concern are: 1, the property level is lower than ours at 105 North Jefferson Street, and I'm concerned that if they raise the level of the property to accommodate a new building structure, that I may get runoff water into his basement. 2, when they take down the house, precautions need to be taken to protect the families in the area from the asbestos, since this is an older structure. 3, that the fence they are proposing does not limit his access to the outside of the south-facing fence, because I had it purposely erected about 2 feet from the property line so I can maintain the fence as needed, and that so he can mow on his side of the property. And then 4, how will the lighting be done for the parking lot? Will it be bright on our bedroom windows? And then thank you for letting me express my concerns. Does that work for you, Floyd? All right. Well, thanks for sending the email too. I'm glad you sent it after, we talked today. Thanks for sending it. Okay, thanks, Floyd.
and of course we can address those issues as we get into the topic. Do we have another speaker?
Yes, last one I have is Chris McIntosh.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to meet with you tonight and express our support for the proposed project at 300 East Verona Avenue. My family and I live at 102 North Jefferson, directly across North Jefferson from the project. And while I share many of the same concerns as Floyd does in terms of the construction and containment of the project, I wanted to just take an opportunity to, again, express our support for the use of the property as a healthcare provider. Also, having had a chance to look at the preliminary designs, we feel that the design would be a huge asset to the city of Verona and also to the neighborhood, and would add value just in general. And so we couldn't be more excited about it. We think it's a great addition to the neighborhood, especially when you consider the disrepair that the current property is in. And with that said, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Do we have additional speakers?
No, those are all speakers I had for this item.
All right. With that, I would take a motion to close the public hearing on this topic.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Lytle. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Powers. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, no. And public hearing is closed at 6:41 p.m. Ms. Holt.
The property is located at 300 East Verona Avenue, noted in red on the screen, which consists of approximately 0.22 acres. The property contains one residential building and used to have a detached garage, which was removed. The property is located in the Downtown Mobility and Development Plan, which was adopted in 2014. The staff report in the Plan Commission packet discusses how this plan overall impacts the project. The Plan Commission reviewed a concept plan for this property last month. Comments from you all included support for the reduction of the setbacks for the downtown overlay zone, support for overall building design, and consensus that the GDP and the PIP can be combined into one step and not two separate reviews and two separate applications. The applicant has submitted a general development plan and a precise implementation plan for review by the Plan Commission with the final decision by the Common Council. The proposal is to demolish the existing building to build a two-story building that would contain a clinic on the first floor and 2 apartments on the second floor. The applicant had a consultant conduct a pre-demolition asbestos inspection in July of 2020. Their report was shared with staff and stated no materials were found containing asbestos during their inspection, much to the relief also of the applicant. Based on the discussions last month for the concept plan, the Plan Commission is supportive of using solely the Central Commercial Zoning District bulk standards, which the applicant has met as shown in Table 1 of the staff report. The applicant is planning to dedicate 7 feet of land to be used by the city for future right-of-way for East Verona Avenue. Access to the site will remain from North Jefferson Street. The applicant has provided 3 parking spaces on the property for clients, even though the parking is not required in this zoning district. The applicant has proposed a bicycle rack near the front door, which was a change from the concept plan. Staff recommends the Plan Commission recommend the, excuse me, I'm off. Here we go. The building will be a combination of brick and masonry and cement board siding. Clients will access the building via East Verona Avenue. Employees and tenants, guests will access the building from North Jefferson Street. Although there were no landscaping requirements for the site, the applicant is proposing planters with grasses and other flowering plants. The Normandy maple in the front of the property will be removed to construct this building, but a sugar maple will be planted in the backyard. The applicant is proposing a 6-foot tall solid wood fence 2 feet off of the property line. This will allow for mowing and future maintenance of the fence, which also addresses Mr. May's concern. The applicant will install residential scaled wall sconces at 3 entry points to the buildings, as well as garage doors. The applicant has no plans to light the parking area. Staff recommends the Plan Commission recommend the Common Council approve the general development plan and the precise implementation plan for 300 East Verona Avenue using solely the Central Commercial Zoning District requirements. The applicant is available to answer questions. However, I would suggest Ms. Fisher answer the comment by Mr. May regarding the stormwater discussions.
Ms. Fisher.
Sure. So this site, I think, was maybe a year or so ago. There was another potential development that was looking at developing the site. So at that time, the same kind of concern, I guess, came up. And so the site itself actually has a low spot and it drains to the east and then goes to the northeast. It kind of settles in the backyard of the 105 Jefferson Street. So I think that was Mr. May's property. So one thing that we made clear at the start with the applicant and their engineer is that we need to make sure that we're not increasing the rate or volume of the stormwater draining offsite. So what they proposed actually, and it's still in the works, but they understand that that's like our main concern, especially in these like redevelopment type sites. So what they propose is actually they're going to be bringing, instead of the water going to the northeast like it does today, they've got a high point at the north side, and they're going to be bringing that water then to the south and southeast, and they have a stormwater basin on the east side that would then connect into the city's storm sewer system. It's not a large basin, it's kind of like a swale. So, and then I guess with that swale, we'll make sure that if that swale were to overtop, it would overtop in the city right away as well. So I think they have reduced that area significantly. Right now, the entire site almost goes to that northeast portion of the property and to that 105 Jefferson Street. And now I think they're cutting it down to just a couple hundred square feet, something like that. So it's going from thousands of square feet to a couple hundred. So it's going to be a significant reduction to that area. We just don't want to, make things worse in that area. So we're always checking for that. So I think what they propose is going to work well.
Okay, so it's so I can bottom line it then, in regards to Mr. May's concern. This is not going to make it worse, and it might make it better. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct. Yeah, they should be reducing the area there. And he's just to the north of it, and their high point on their site. So they're gonna have that parking lot there. That parking lot will all drain to the south and be collected into the city system. So instead of going off site like it does today, it'll actually be more collected and brought like a typical development into the city system.
All right. And then I just had one brief follow-up on the lighting question for city staff. How is that enforced? I don't anticipate any problems at this property, but let's say, I don't know, someone puts a spotlight up over the parking lot. Like, what would the city do then?
Yeah, we have what's called, I forget the technical name, but it's a light reader. So it actually goes out there, and you go out there on a night like tonight, and it actually measures the light. So we'd go out there when it's dark and measure the light intensity coming off there at the property line if it were to be a problem. So we've had to do that in a couple situations where we've had complaints from people about lights that have gone up. It's more common, quite honestly, in residential areas when people put lights on their house versus in developments like this. And that's partially because any large development, as the Planning Commission knows, we get a photometric plan, which has down to the foot candle what the intensity is. But yeah, if it's an issue, we'd end up going out there at the light meter and checking it.
Okay, but my understanding is the current plan looks acceptable.
Yeah, so with the wall sconces, it's no different than you'd have like on a typical residential garage. So, I mean, that's what we see on most houses in the city.
All right. With that, we are on general discussion of this topic and development. I would open it up to the Plan Commission. Questions, comments, or motions? Commissioner Hankard?
It seems like every concern of the resident has been addressed, or the other residents are supportive. I make a motion to approve this project, or recommend to the council that they approve this project.
Motion by Commissioner Hankard. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Hingle. Any discussion on the motion before the body? Seeing no further hands. All those in favor of recommending to the Common Council to approve the GDP and PIP for a plan unit development for a 2-story, 4,706 square foot building located at 300 East Verona Avenue. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no? And that motion passes. Next, we will move on to item 6, for real this time, which is a general development plan for 121 and 125 Berkeley Road. Before I make a motion to open the public hearing, can we get a brief overview of this project?
Thank you. Once again, this is a plan development and general development plan. This is step 3 of 4 of the plan development process. As part of this step, the applicant is able to request zoning exemptions as part of that. If the project is ultimately approved by the Common Council, zoning kind of entitlements are granted as part of the project. This does require a public hearing before the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission then makes a recommendation to the Common Council for potential action or approval on the project. Similar to the last project, we did notify all people within 200 feet, posted a sign on the property, posted on the website, and also had the Class 2 public hearing notice in the newspaper.
Great. And with that, I will make a motion to open the public hearing on the planned unit development, general development plan review to construct a 3-story, 80-unit apartment building located at 121 and 125 Berkeley Road. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Tucker Long. All those in favor of opening the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. And we are into the public hearing at 6:52 p.m. Do we have any speakers, Mr. Sayre?
Yes, I have one. I have Tim Hagan. Hi, Tim. You got you got to unmute yourself, Tim.
There we go. We're good?
Yeah, you're good. Now you're good.
All right, thank you. So I guess I'd like to thank the commission for this opportunity to speak. And I guess because of my difficulties in this, I'd like to address some concerns about my neighbors, who I will say are maybe a little bit older than me and not as tech savvy as me, and you can see how tech savvy I am, which I'm not. A lot of them said, oh, we're going to go to City Hall. We'll definitely talk. But obviously with COVID, that's not possible. So I guess I'd just like to address the whole COVID situation in Zoom as well. I think there's people I would like to speak that don't have the ability, the tech savviness to speak. So I just want to address that as well. So thanks for listening. My main reason is to address you and voice my opinion in my strong opposition to the 121-125 Berkeley project as it sits right now. So we're replacing 2 10-unit apartment buildings that have been in the same neighborhood for, I'm guessing, 30 to 40 years. And that density of those 2 projects are at 11.7 units per acre. And they're going to replace that with a 3-story plus apartment complex at 80 units. 80 units at a density of 46.5 units per acre. So that's almost 4 times the allowable current zoning limit that is stated. And again, I don't want to dwell on this too much, but this is in a well-established neighborhood where this project is going to come up at. In the proposal, it cites comparisons of West End apartments, and so I don't know if this is the project paperwork that staff has developed. And I guess I just want to point out a couple different spots on here where they use comparisons. And one of them is the West End apartments. It's 106 units, 2.64 acres. That's at 40.15 units per acre. That's using as a comparison. And what I have to say about that is when that West End Apartments was developed, that was all farmland. That was the Marv Thompson farmland. In fact, I actually used to pull hay wagons maybe 35 years ago on that farm. But that was all farmland. So that was an area that was farmland that was converted to apartments. And there was no infrastructure, and so the infrastructure was built around that. The other unit that's on here is the Sugar Creek Commons, and that's at 34.86 units per acre. So that there was a truck stop, a car wash, and a volleyball court that is being developed or proposed to be developed. And so my biggest point about that is when you're using that as comparisons, that is all land that had different use and was being converted to apartments. So what this project is doing, it's taking a neighborhood, a well-established neighborhood where there was 2 10-unit buildings, and you're putting 80 units in there. And you're putting too many people in a small amount of area, and in my opinion, the infrastructure is not ready to develop, or it's not able to take all that new traffic in the area. So I have a couple questions, and how this can even be, how we can have that much density over the zoning ordinance. And I guess another question that comes up in the actual proposal that was proposed by, this came from the developer right here. On the back page, it says the project schedule right on the bottom line here. And I don't want to, I will read it because it's only 2 sentences. It says, we anticipate starting the construction in spring of 2021 with a 10 to 12 month construction schedule for phase 1 apartments. Then it says the retail project will follow after existing tenants are relocated. And I just have a question. The retail project will follow after existing tenants are relocated. The retail project, I think, is referring to the East Verona Avenue project, or the East Verona Avenue Old Motel. And I guess I just have a question. Why is the Berkeley Road Apartments, why is that project being tied into the East Verona Old Motel project? Because it's actually part of the proposal that was submitted to the city. So I just think there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. And I guess the bottom line is, as a lifelong resident of Verona, being in the Pioli Street neighborhood, we've had a lot of things that have happened over the last year. And I'm not going to read the letter that I submitted that should be in your packet that addresses parking issues and traffic issues. But the Pioli Street neighborhood has really been hit lately with a lot of new things. And I think to put an 80-unit apartment into an existing neighborhood, we really got to start asking some questions. Why are we trying to put that many people into an existing neighborhood? Other than that, I think that pretty much addresses my concerns. Like I said, I did submit a letter, and I also want to just reiterate, a lot of people were planning, when I say a lot of people, I know 3 people were planning on going to City Hall to speak tonight, and because of COVID, obviously that can't happen. So thanks for your time, and I really hope you address those questions and concerns that I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Do we have other public speakers?
No, we did not.
All right. With that, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing on this topic.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Tucker Long. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Powers. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. But I didn't make that motion.
Oh, wait, sorry, did you?
I made the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, let's let the record show Alder Cole made the motion to close the public hearing. Thank you for clarifying that. Still seconded by Commissioner Powers. That one I got right. With that, the public hearing is closed at 7 p.m. Mr. Sayer.
Thank you. That's the property that we're talking about here tonight at 121, 125 Berkeley is highlighted in yellow on the screen before you. It's at the southeast corner of Industrial Drive and Berkeley Road. This was discussed at the September Plan Commission as a concept review. Comments and questions from the Plan Commission included questions regarding the price points for rents. Is there a way to reduce the impervious surface of the parking lot area? Support for the connection to the trail. Glad the tenants can remain in the city with their existing rent, and support for the overall redevelopment and upgrade of the property. And this also went to the Common Council as well for feedback. And the council had concerns about reducing the amount of parking verification on the residential phasing policy, and that due to the amount of apartments that are proposed in the area. Glad the rents will be closer to the workforce housing rents, and support for the overall reduction in parking due to the walking and the clientele that kind of live in the building. So the project before you tonight is kind of a inverse L-shaped building that would front along Berkeley Road and also slightly along Industrial Drive on the west. As part of this, the applicant is requesting zoning exemptions. The exemptions include exemption for the density. The zoning ordinance allows a maximum density of 12 dwelling units per acre. The applicant is requesting a density of 46.5 dwelling units per acre. Front yard setback exemption from 25 feet down to 10 feet. And then also a side yard setback, instead of 15 feet, it would be 13 feet. And then a rear yard setback exemption of 2 feet, so it would be setback 23 feet instead of the code allowed 25 feet. They're also requesting a building height exemption. The code allows up to 35 feet as a maximum height. The applicant would be requesting a 40-foot tall building. That comes out to a 3-story building. And also they're requesting a parking exemption as well. I think as the speaker pointed out in the packet, we do have a list of other multifamily buildings that are in the city that wasn't in there for comparison purposes. It's just mostly to kind of inform the Plan Commission of just what are some other projects in the city from a density standpoint. Density is a tough number to visualize. So we try to put that in the packets just so the Plan Commission has a general understanding of kind of when we start talking densities, here are some kind of other projects in the area they can look at and kind of give a general comparison to. Access to the site will be provided from both Berkeley Road and also from Industrial Drive. The applicant is proposing 119 parking spaces, and that includes 53 surface spaces and 66 underground parking spaces. The zoning ordinance requires 159 parking spaces. So as part of this, the applicant would be looking for an exemption as part of that parking requirement. In the packet, the applicant did include conceptual building elevations. Staff has provided the applicant with some comments on the elevations. We'd like to see some of the roof line kind of dressed up a little bit, some more character, some more detail to that. I think some of the color is a rendering kind of issue concern. I think it's showing up darker than what it really is, but we'd encourage the applicant to look at maybe some lighter colors. I think, like I said, it's probably a rendering issue, but looking at that. And then as they look at the landscaping will be kind of a key detail here to help kind of ground that building with landscaping along the base of the building. Right now, obviously the elevations don't have anything on there, but they would be advised to strongly try to ground that and do a significant amount of landscaping on it. A couple of questions that were kind of asked during the public hearing. How can they have so much density on this project? I think, as part of the plan development process, applicants are allowed to request density and zoning exemptions. So that's something that's allowed by the ordinance. It's at the discretion of the Plan Commission and Council of, do they think the project kind of meets the criteria to grant those exemptions? So that's one of the items that, the Plan Commission and Council have that give and take ability on. The second question was regarding the project at Verona Avenue. That's where the old motel is, and there's a White House there. That's the old floral shop, and then also a home that's in between those two. The applicant also owns those three, actually more than 3 properties there, but those 3 properties, as we talked about during the concept, the applicant is looking at redeveloping those 3 properties. His goal is he would construct this project and then move the people from the motel into this building, and at that point demolish the old motel and then redevelop that site. So they aren't directly tied together, but they slightly are from, I think, the developer's standpoint as he's looking at projects. The reason this one's coming kind of first is he has to build this and make units for those people to live in. Staff had some conversations with the developer about, splitting these projects and due to the timing of those projects, we felt it was appropriate to split it. This would be constructed first, and then the commercial on Verona Avenue would come second, most likely in 2022 or sometime around there. So that's why it's mentioned in the staff in the submittal. So that staff recommends the Plan Commission recommend the Common Council approval of the general development plan for 121 and 125 Berkeley Road with the following conditions: that they would grant exemptions for 1, the setback for the front yard will be the minimum of 10 feet. 2, B, the porches can encroach into the side and rear yard setbacks, which means they'll not meet the minimum requirement by 2 feet. C, the maximum height of the building will be 40 feet. D, the parking will be reduced to a minimum of 66 underground parking stalls and 53 surface stalls. And E, the density of the property will be 46.5 dwelling units per acre. The applicant is here tonight along with the architect, and they would be happy to answer any questions from the Plan Commission.
Thank you for that explanation. We'll open it up to the Plan Commission. Questions, comments, or motions? Commissioner Lytle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Looking through the letter that was submitted, I believe by Mr. Hagan, there were some questions about how a redevelopment like this fits into city's plans for this part of the city, as well as what impacts or caps we have on additional apartments and phasing. Could we sort of summarize those here and refresh my memory, actually?
Sure.
Mr. Sayre?
Yeah, so we've in the past have looked at other projects that kind of along the bike trail that are in close proximity to downtown, and that includes the Lincoln Street Apartments. It also includes the Velocity project at 142 Paoli Street. So we've looked at those that, in generally from a redevelopment standpoint, as in that general proximity to the downtown area, especially since they're connected by the bike path. It's an easy walkable connection. So from a kind of long-term planning standpoint, I think from a planning standpoint of when you have projects that potentially can kind of help that downtown, and there's an opportunity to redevelop plans, we try to encourage that type of development. You kind of can see that, like I said, with those projects and also with the city center project and also the townhomes and condos around where the hop house is and the dental office. Kind of regarding the policy we do have a multifamily residential phasing policy that's been in place since 2012. It is a policy, it's not an ordinance, so the council has ultimate discretion of how they enforce that type of policy. End of the day, that policy has 3 exemptions to it that exempts multifamily development from, and that includes mixed use developments, redevelopments, and then also age restricted housing. So senior housing is exempted in downtown development. So I think from a staff standpoint, this is probably classified as a downtown redevelopment project from our standpoint. Like I said, it's in that close proximity to the downtown. It's a walkable area to the downtown. If there was a reason to look at that policy and exempt this project, it'd probably be exempted because of that criteria that a downtown redevelopment project can be exempted from that policy. One of our goals with that policy is it's been around now for 8 years, and it seems like every project, most of the projects we looked at, not every project has some form of exemption to it. We do want to look at that policy as part of the comprehensive plan rewrite in the coming years.
Thank you. Commissioner Lytle?
And then just one follow-up. Do we have a rough idea how many units are on East Main Street? Like, to get an idea of the net increase in apartments that this will create. So we have 20 here going to 80. So that's an increase of 60, but the redevelopment on East Main is going to end up with a net reduction in units there, I assume.
Correct. So, I mean, so if you look at this one, it has the 20 and they're looking at 80, and then I believe there's 15 units on East Roan Avenue of where the motel is. Are you looking at other projects as well that are out there, or just the ones the applicant owns?
Just these two.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Tucker Long.
I'm not sure if I'm remembering correctly, but I think someone mentioned that like these would be lower than the some of the rent rates at some of the other projects that we have. Would these qualify as workforce housing?
Mr. Sayer.
So workforce housing is a definition that's based upon what the median household income is for Dane County. There's certain cutoffs for that. You have 80%, 60%, and 40%. The short answer is we haven't looked at that from a staff standpoint. Does it quote unquote qualify as workforce housing? Part of that depends on the household size as well. So Dane County has a whole kind of spreadsheet, and that goes into the WIDA tax credit program of how it's scored. But the short answer is no. Maybe it probably gets closer than others, but I don't know off the top of my head.
But if I could maybe expand on that, I mean, these are still floating at market rate. You know, I mean, they're not targeting like the top end of the market, like a lot of the projects for apartments we see, but they're more just market rate that happens to kind of work out towards more of the middle. And then, you know, they're not asking for any TIF or any other incentives. I think they're just building what they're building. Commissioner Powers.
I think part of what we're remembering is when they talked about the existing tenants will get to keep their rate, but at some point as they move on, I'm assuming it'll go back to market rate.
Yeah, and who knows what, you know, the future of the market will be too. I imagine that'll impact rents, you know, up or down depending on how everything else goes. Commissioner Hingle and then Commissioner Tucker Long.
I have some concern about lack of green space and especially play space for kids. I'm wondering if the space between the apartments and where the trail is, if that's some green space there, and if it's just a lawn or what that is.
Mr. Sayer?
Ms. Fisher, do you want to, is it a stormwater area?
Yeah, I can talk about it. Is that, so you're just the area to the south that the property that it abuts up to? So that's the state trail through there. So it's a kind of like brushy area. It's got a swale that goes through there. It's not really a play area. It's an area that, you know, we're looking at from like everything drains down to the south naturally. And so we are looking at extending, we've talked to the engineer about extending the storm sewer connection further to the east so that they can actually directly tie into that and not just dump it into that swale, which is fairly flat and with the brush we don't want to make, again, any drainage issues in that area. So I guess short answer, no, it's not. It's a natural space, but it's not really, you know, a super accessible space, I would say.
Mr. Sayer?
I think just one point of clarification too. Right now they have 25 studio units, 35 one-bedroom units, and then 20 two-bedroom units. So it's got a relatively, you're probably not going to have too many kids in here if that's the unit mix they have, just because you've got the vast majority of the unit counts are going to be those efficiencies in one bedrooms, which typically doesn't attract those families. Now you've got the two-bedroom units, but like I said, they've got in here 60 of the 80 units are studios and ones.
Yeah, and it looks like, I think on their property, that likely would just be, it looks like that's likely green space, probably just a yard, I guess, like that would lead up. I don't know exactly how they're going to landscape it, but my guess is that they're going to put in turf grass or something, whatever can make it in a somewhat shady area. So on their own property, there is a kind of sliver, and that is right now showing as green space. It's not going to be paved or anything like that. Just to clarify, I'm looking at the site plan right now and realizing that they have a little bit of space there. I think that might be what you're asking about. But the property to the south is wooded and not very accessible.
Is this something we could talk about during the PIP at least a little bit as far as landscaping goes? Or?
Yeah, I mean, they'd have a detailed landscaping plan at that time.
Okay. I have Commissioner Tucker Long and then Commissioner Powers.
So I'm wondering with the parking exemption, it sounded like they're going to have 60 underground parking units, but they have 80 apartment units. And I'm wondering, just thinking long term, we've been trying to stick with at least one underground parking space per unit, just because, you know, if this apartment building changes hands, it gets changed around or something, you know, we don't want to be stuck because it's hard to add later. But I'm wondering, is it because the parking spaces don't fit under it, or is there a reason they don't have one underground parking space per unit?
Mr. Sayre?
I think we talked about that during the concept review. There was something that staff had brought up, and staff was, I think the applicant was left with the impression that the Plan Commission and possibly the council didn't have a concern with, in this case, of not having that one-to-one. I think the comment, if I recall, was because of the applicant spoke, and it was with the tenants that he has currently. A lot of the tenants currently don't have vehicles, so the Plan Commission was comfortable not having that type of requirement for this project.
And if I could clarify one thing, is there's still surface parking lot, right? Like, so I'm looking at the packet, it says 119 total stalls, is that correct?
I believe, yes, 119 total stalls, 53 on the surface and 66 underground.
Okay, with a parking ratio of 1.5 per apartment, so then that includes efficiencies in one bedrooms. Commissioner Powers.
Yeah, thanks. I was actually going to echo kind of in response to Commissioner Engel's comment, what Adam said, but probably not as smoothly and as accurately. But I was agreeing that essentially there are mostly single bedrooms and studios here, and I think it would likely not necessitate quite as much green space. And we did have that conversation last time about adding more underground parking, and I think the thought was that the more you continue to add the underground parking, the costs get passed along to the tenant, and it will raise the rents up a little bit higher and be more on the luxury end again, like a lot of the other apartment buildings are.
Mr. Sayre.
They did add 4 additional spaces since the concept review, so they did add a few more. They took a look at it and squeezed a few more in, if it helps.
I guess I'll just call myself quick. Mr. Sayre, do you have any concerns about parking overall? And if there was potential overspill, where do you think it would go?
It would go to the street. That's where it ultimately would go. It would most likely end up on Berkeley or Industrial Drive. Industrial Drive right now is a cul-de-sac dead end at the north.
Okay.
You know, ultimately, that's going to be connected into the New Century Sugar Creek School redevelopment to the north into Church Avenue. So industrial will probably get a little bit busier when that connection is made and that redevelopment happens to the north. But you know, most likely it would end up on the streets, no different than what it is today.
Okay. And any concerns about the amount of stalls overall?
No, I think it's generally kind of in that area, the general area that we've seen in other projects. So it's typical. The big difference is, as it's been pointed out here, usually we have that 1-to-1 underground, but the 1.5 is kind of in that area that we've seen before. So everybody gets one stall, and then if they are married, you'd have or not married or with somebody, they would have a second space potentially. So we don't see any concerns with it.
Gotcha. Commissioner Tucker Long.
Just following up on the parking, I think if possible, I'd rather see them add in some more underground parking and maybe use some of the surface parking area to add in a little bit of green space. Even if these are not targeting families, having a little barbecue area would be nice, just some sort of outdoor space. I mean, people not without kids, you know, still need green space. And you know, you can't barbecue on your balcony. So having a green space where it's safer for people to barbecue would probably be a good idea. You know, especially since they're right by the trail, it's a nice nature area. So just having a little bit of usable space by the nature might be a really big draw. I do understand wanting to keep it lower, you know, lower cost, but if when the current tenants move out, they're going to be raising the rent on these, it might be nice to have those amenities, you know, since it'll be in a higher rent bracket then.
Other questions? Mr. Sager.
Just to kind of clarify, just so everyone's aware, as part of the project, and hopefully you can see my cursor since I always mess this up, on both the south kind of corner here and then the north corner along Berkeley, those are outdoor patio areas. So those are your common spaces that the tenants will be able to use, kind of to your point, potentially for grilling or for something, you know, kind of a common gathering space outside. So they did add that from the last submittal. That was part of the way they were able to kind of get those additional underground parking spaces by adding that kind of common outdoor space.
Great.
Questions, comments, or motions? Alder Cole.
So with the landscaping that the city is recommending or requiring, is that, are they going to be planting any trees, or is it mainly just going to be kind of like shrubbery and, you know, floral kind of landscaping? What are you, just, you know, we're trying to plant more trees, so I don't know if that was something you're requiring or recommending.
Mr. Sager.
Yeah, so it'll be a mix. I mean, part of the comment on the elevations was there's a lot of the kind of parking garage exposed, and to kind of reduce the scale and look of that, they heavily kind of landscape that with some shrubs or bushes or, you know, tall grasses. You kind of cut into what the scale of the building looks like on the kind of 2D elevations that or 3D elevations that were submitted. But no, they would still need trees as well, a variety of trees on the property. It could be a little more challenging along the bike trail just because it is already heavily wooded, but there's options out there, things they can look at that will fit and blend pretty well.
Commissioner Powers.
I just wanted to second the staff's comments about the overall aesthetic being very dark in those pictures. And like you said, it may just be how it printed out. But being on the bike path with it also being somewhat shaded back there, if it just does stay that dark, it's going to look very dark from the back of the building.
Questions, comments, or motions from the Planning Commission? Commissioner Tucker-Long.
One more question. The speaker during the public comment section also mentioned that this is going into an established neighborhood. And I'm looking at the map, and it seems to be sort of an industrial area. It looks like there might be some houses on the other side of the bike trail. Are there houses on its side of the bike trail?
Mr. Sager?
No. So to the east of this site, there's an additional apartment building, and then it is the Ellis Manufacturing Building, which is the kind of the long rectangle buildings here. North of the property along Berkeley Court, those are additional apartment buildings that were kind of built in the same time period as this one. As you cross the bike trail, those are existing, for the most part, single-family homes, but no, nothing on this side of the bike trail.
Questions or comments from the Planning Commission or motion? Commissioner Tucker-Long.
All right, let me see if I can get this. So I move that the Plan Commission recommends to the Common Council that they approve the general development plan for 121 and 125 Berkeley Road with the conditions laid out in the staff report.
Motion by Commissioner Tucker-Long. Is there a second? Seconded by, I think Commissioner Powers had his hand up first. Motion before the body. Questions, comments on the motion? I'll just throw myself on the stack real quick. I think, you know, this is putting apartments in an area that already had apartments. And I really appreciate the applicant's efforts to target more of the middle of the market I mean, I think, there's nothing wrong with luxury apartments, but it just sometimes it feels like every single proposal we get is for luxury apartments. And I wonder, about the kind of housing we're building in the city. And I also just wonder if it's right, to put all our eggs in one basket as far as one specific slice of the market. So I do like this. I also like the fact that they're not asking for TIF. They're not asking for tax credits. There's nothing wrong. Well, there's some things wrong with TIF, but there's nothing wrong with, kind of working through your incentive systems. It's just, if we want to build housing at a variety of price points, at some point the market's just going to have to take care of it. And I do really appreciate that they're working hard not to displace the residents on East Verona Avenue, because we've definitely had developers come before the body who don't seem to care about their tenants, and I don't like that. So I think this is potentially a good project which will provide housing to people who work in the factories, and I think that's sometimes with Epic and everything. Like, I used to work at Epic. Epic's great, but sometimes I think people forget that there's more to the city than just Epic, and there's more jobs than just Epic. So I think that this kind of housing that targets people who work at other jobs is really good. So I think, on the whole, I'm optimistic about this overall project. I totally understand what Mr. Hagan was saying. My impression is that, the cars and the traffic, for the most part, is going to stay targeted away from Paoli, as far as parking and stuff goes. So I think, with staff's kind of endorsement, I think, of the parking plan, I feel confident of that. And I guess if I can just throw one last thing on, I do look forward to looking at the landscaping plan, just, because I think it would be nice to kind of integrate some Wisconsin native trees near the bike path, just because I feel like it's a nice nature trail, and in line with what Commissioner Hingle said, I think, the more that the green space can be enhanced, I think that'll be better. Whether there's kids or not, you can be any age and appreciate green space, in my opinion. But anyways, I'll stop talking. Any other discussion on this motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of recommending to the Common Council to approve the planned unit development, general development plan to construct a 3-story, 80-unit apartment building located at 121 and 125 Berkeley Road with the conditions in the packet, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no? And that motion passes. Next, we'll move on to item 7, which is the Costco, but it's also a planned unit development, general development plan that would allow for the construction of a 160,430 square foot warehouse and 24 pump fuel stations located at south of County Highway M, west of Thousand Oaks Trail, north of American Way, and east of County Highway PD. Before we get into the public hearing, can we get a brief overview, Mr. Sayer?
Thank you. This is a public hearing for the Costco project in the Verona Technology Park. This, by ordinance, requires it to be a planned development because of the size of the project. So that's why it's a planned development and not a site plan review. As part of this, we did post public hearing notification signs on the property. We also notified all property owners within 200 feet of the project, had a Class 2 public hearing notice placed in the paper, and posted the project on the city's website. This is a recommendation tonight to the Common Council, and we've lost 2 members, but I think they're coming back. Yes.
3, 4,
We're good.
6. Okay, we're back up. We're back up to quorum.
So this is a recommendation tonight to the Common Council.
Thank you. And with that, I will move to open the public hearing on this topic. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Tucker-Long. All those in favor of opening the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. And the public hearing is open at 7:30 p.m. Do we have any speakers, Mr. Sayer?
No, we do not.
All right. With that, a motion to close the public hearing would be in order.
So moved.
Motion by Alder Cole. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Engel. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And the public hearing is closed at 7:30 p.m. Mr. Sayer.
Thank you. So we have 2 items that I'll cover at the same time. We have the general development plan And then we also have a certified survey map to create 4 lots as part of the project. So I'll cover both of them as part of the staff presentation. Once again, this is a plan development. This went before the Plan Commission in July of 2020 for kind of a conceptual feedback. It also went before the Common Council as well. Generally, both the Plan Commission and Common Council were open to the project. There were concerns about just traffic, parking, connectivity, and there was also a significant amount of interest in preserving the tree as a large oak tree at the corner of County Hem and County Highway PB. So, and that's something that the applicant has preserved as part of this development project. This is step 3 of 4 of the plan development process. So there is one more step in the process, which is the precise implementation plan. So there's still okay. Thanks, Pat. Pat might have to drop off. Just he's having some IT issues, so if he does, that's why. So this is step 3 of 4 of the plan development process. So there's still one more step to kind of go forward with this, but this is where zoning entitlements could be granted. The applicant is not requesting any zoning exemptions. Once again, this process is dictated by the size of the building. This project is located within the Southeastern Neighborhood Plan. This site was planned for commercial land uses when the park was initially platted. The property we're talking about tonight is highlighted in red before you. Once again, southeast corner of M and County Highway PB. Project itself is similar to what the Plan Commission saw a few months ago. Access would be provided from Thousand Oaks Trail on the east, and then also American Way on the south, kind of through the gas station access point, and then also from this new road, which we call Backyard Court. The city had received a request from a former property owner who originally owned the property many years ago. They requested that this road in this area be named after the family that used to own the property. This is something that the Historical Society looked at for us, and also Costco, and everyone was comfortable using the family name of Backer, just to kind of recognize some of the history with this property that goes back many, many years. So that's the reason it's a Backer Court. There's some background and history to the family that originally owned the piece of property many years ago. So access would be from Backer Court, and then also those 2 other access points. The applicant is proposing 784 parking spaces. The ordinance requires 535 parking spaces. One item that staff is working through with the applicant still, and I think we've worked it out, is having a turnaround on the Costco property for our plows. So as we plow Backer Court, we'd have the ability to go into the Costco parking lot, turn our trucks around, and then also exit back out Backer Court. So it would reduce the need for us to have a cul-de-sac or a traffic circle or roundabout or something there. It would cut down on the amount of impervious surface that we would have for a city street that we'd have to maintain. So we've been working with the applicants on that, and I think we're at a point that we're comfortable. As part of this project, a traffic impact analysis was completed and has been reviewed by city staff. We do have Jess Billmeyer here tonight, the city's traffic engineer, and he can answer any traffic-related questions. Costco will be making public improvements as part of this project along American Way, Thousand Oaks Trail, and then also constructing the Backer Court. TIF District number 8 will be making the other improvements in this area, and that would be at the intersection of County Highway M and County Highway PB, and then also at the kind of off-ramps and on-ramps on the 18151. Those upgrades would include traffic signals, and then also expansion on the road, and that's for future projects that we have occurring in TIF District number 8. Obviously, it would benefit this project as well, but there's also a future benefit that we'd have for the TIF district. Drainage and stormwater, the applicant has submitted plans to the city engineer. I think generally we're comfortable kind of with what they've submitted to us. The building itself, here's a rendering of kind of what the gas station fuel pumps would look like. As part of the fuel pumps, the applicant is proposing to install a solar panel system on top of the fuel facility. And the intent of that would be to help power kind of the electricity for the fuel station area. This would also support the 2 electrical vehicle charging stations that they would have kind of in close proximity to this area. So those solar panels would help power the fuel canopy, the fueling area, and then also those 2 electrical vehicle charging areas. The building itself, it's similar to what the Plan Commission saw a few months ago, but the applicant is proposing to use high-quality materials. It turned out to be, to be quite honest, a very nice-looking building. Costco worked with us on the design of it from where it was initially to what we have today. At the base, you'd have that stone veneer, you'd have the brick material, and then you'd have the recycled kind of metal panel at the top. This is kind of towards the back side of the building. Once again, they've got the banding going across. They've got the parapet kind of having some undulation to it, varying kind of heights, having kind of a unique look to it compared to what you see in Middleton and elsewhere. So they did work with us on this, and the staff is appreciative of the work that they did to kind of dress the building up from what we initially saw. A landscaping plan isn't required, but it was included kind of in the packet to the Plan Commission. They also included this kind of perspective as you look from County Highway M towards the building. There's a large kind of space kind of in between the road and the building itself, and what they're doing is they're looking at trying to screen that as best they can. So County Highway M sits higher than the site, but they'll be looking at doing some significant plantings in this area to kind of screen the backside of that building. So staff is appreciative of how that would look. Ultimately, County Highway M in the future is not fully built out, so that road as traffic gets more congested in this area will need to be expanded again at some point. So that road will get wider at some point in the future, but where they've put the landscaping on their property will be closer to maturity by the time that expansion would be needed in the future. As part of this, they are proposing a 4-lot CSM. That CSM will vacate portions of the existing John P. Livesey Boulevard that was previously platted when the technology park was platted back in the early 2000s. That does require a public hearing to vacate that before the Common Council. So assuming the CSM moves forward, there would be a public hearing potentially at the Common Council meeting on November, I believe it's November 23rd. It wouldn't be the next council meeting. Yes, the 23rd. It would be at the 23rd meeting where we potentially would act on the CSM and the ultimate vacation of the existing right-of-way. As part of the project, though, the applicant would create these 4 kind of outlots as part of the project. Those lots are currently zoned commercial. They would remain zoned commercial, and ultimately Costco would probably sell those off to be developed in the future. Part of the project, staff has worked through a vacant store agreement with Costco. We've come to an agreement on a staff level with Costco on that vacant store agreement. That's an item that we would move forward most likely at the PIP level, but we, as internally as staff, we are in agreement on that. So with that, staff does recommend the Plan Commission review the submitted materials, and staff also recommends the Plan Commission recommend the Common Council approve the general development plan for Costco Wholesale with the following conditions. 1, prior to the GDP becoming effective, the city and Costco shall enter into a vacant store agreement. And then 2, the GDP shall become effective upon Costco, the applicant acquiring the property. And then for the CSM, staff recommends the Plan Commission recommend the Common Council approval of the CSM to create 4 lots. That would include the vacation of John P. Livesey Boulevard as well. And with that, the applicant is here tonight. They'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. With that, we'll open it up for general discussion for the Plan Commission. Questions, comments, or motions? Commissioner Tucker Long?
Just a quick comment. I'm glad to see them doing, landscaping and planning the landscaping for the expansion of County M. I really like the work that staff in Costco did on making the building look nice. I think it looks really nice. And I'm very appreciative of that too. So with that in mind, I'd like to make a motion that we recommend that the Common Council approve the general development plan for Costco Wholesale with the following conditions listed, with the 2 conditions listed in the packet.
Motion by Commissioner Tucker Long. Is there a second? Seconded by Alder Cole.
One quick question. And Adam, in the staff report, there's a recommendation with the conditions, and then there's a number 2 for the CSM. Does that have to be separate?
Yep, they'll be separate.
Okay. Perfect. Just checking.
So we are discussing a motion to recommend approval of the GDP to the council with 2 conditions specified in the packet. Questions, comments on this motion? I'll just say I like the addition of the solar panels and the charging stations. I think those are really good. I know Costco is still looking potentially at putting solar on the main roof, although, you know, not potentially at this time, but I would really encourage them to do that. And then I wanted to double check what plant species, but my packet is not loading. I like digital a lot better, but paper never fails to load, so sometimes I prefer paper. But I would encourage them to use native Wisconsin trees in their landscaping. And I guess finally, I look forward to the potential jobs this could create for the Verona area. I think that's really good, and I would definitely encourage them to hire from the area. But motion before the body. Questions, comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of recommending to the council to approve the GDP for a planned unit development for the 160,430 square foot warehouse and 24 pump fuel stations located in the Verona Technology Park with the 2 conditions noted in the packet. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Next, we'll move on to the CSM. So questions, comments on the certified survey map to create 4 lots located in the Verona Technology Park? Commissioner Lytle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make a motion that the Plan Commission recommends the Common Council approve the CSM as stated just now by you. That includes the 4 lots and vacation of the 1.698 acres of John P. Livesey Boulevard.
Motion by Commissioner Lytle. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Tucker Long. Motion before the body. Any discussion on this CSM? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of recommending to the council to in favor of the certified survey map to create 4 lots located in the Verona Technology Park, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Next, we'll move on to item 8, which is a discussion and possible action regarding a site plan review for Big Sky Engineering to allow for an additional parking lot located at 515 Commerce Parkway. Ms. Holt.
Thank you. The project is located again at 515 Commerce Parkway, which is shown in red. But anyway, the applicant is proposing a new parking lot to the east of the existing building. This will accommodate up to 9 new parking stalls with 4 additional parking stalls. Yep, so the 4 additional parking stalls will be noted as a future needs. The parking lot requires site plan approval from the Plan Commission. And that's right, where Adam's showing with the arrow, that's where the parking lot will be located. In August of 2020, the Plan Commission conditionally approved a facade improvement for this property with the condition that prior to planting landscaping, the applicant would coordinate the species of the plantings and location with staff. The applicant has provided a landscaping plan as part of this application. The landscaping plan that is provided in the Plan Commission packet was analyzed using the incorrect zoning district. But the good news is for the applicant that even with the correct zoning district, they still exceed the landscaping points by 229 points. So it still worked in their favor. Lighting is not proposed in the parking lot. If it is proposed, a photometric plan would be required as well as the site plan approval as we previously discussed in the other submittals. And this staff recommends the Plan Commission approve the site plan for additional parking for Big Sky Engineering located at 515 Commerce Parkway.
Thank you for that explanation. And of course, since this is site plan review, it doesn't go to the council and it would be approved or not at the Plan Commission level. With that, we are on this topic. Questions, comments, or motion? Commissioner Tucker-Law?
I move that we approve the site plan for additional parking for Big Sky Engineering located at 515 Commerce Parkway.
Motion by Commissioner Tucker-Law. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Powers. Motion before the body. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the site plan for Big Sky Engineering to allow for an additional parking lot located at 515 Commerce Parkway, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Next, we'll move on to item 9, which is a discussion and possible action regarding a presentation by the Capital Area Regional Planning Commission, otherwise known as CARPC, regarding the Regional Development Framework. Mr. Sayer, do you have a speaker for us?
I have Steve Steinhoff from CARPC here, so I'll promote Steve into the meeting.
Great.
Hi, Steve.
Hi.
You should be
Hello,
able to,
everyone.
you should be able to share your screen.
Okay, great. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Sometimes I have trouble with my microphone, so I usually ask. So I will share my screen, and you should see this, this PowerPoint, and I'll turn it into the slideshow format. Well, first of all, let me say thank you to the Plan Commission for giving me the opportunity to share this information with you. I look forward to it. And I'm going to be giving a brief presentation on the development, the preparation of what we're calling a regional development framework. And we started calling it a regional land use plan, but in conversations with local community representatives, the feedback we got was that a regional development framework was a better description, better captures the advisory nature of the plan, and a plan also it avoids confusion with a regional plan versus a local plan. So this was a little more clear. So why are we doing this? 3 quick reasons. One is that the Wisconsin state law requires the regional planning commissions in Wisconsin to prepare a master plan for the physical development of the region. Master plan is sort of outdated language. We typically use the term comprehensive plan. And what we're working on is really one portion of the element of the comprehensive plan, primarily the land use part of that. Secondly, this project, this initiative is part of carrying out our mission and vision, mission to strengthen the region by engaging communities through planning, collaboration, and assistance, and a vision of a region where communities create exceptional quality of life for all by working together to solve regional challenges. One of those regional challenges, of course, is coordinating and managing the growth that the region faces. These are current projections that we prepared while we're waiting for the Wisconsin DOA to release their population household projections. Can't really wait any longer, so we prepared working with the NPO and local units of government, getting feedback from them. So approximately just under 200,000 people, about 100,000 housing units, and just short of 100,000 jobs during this 30-year period, mostly concentrated, as you can see on this map, in this urbanized area in the Central Park. So the first phase of this effort was the Greater Madison Vision Initiative that CARPC got going at the end of 2015. And I believe I may have presented some of this information to you previously, but it was an effort to bring together leaders from the public and private sector to engage stakeholders and the public around looking at what are going to be the forces that will shape our change, exploring alternative futures through which we can best respond and prepare for those forces of change, and conducting a region-wide public survey at the end of 2018. 9,200 people responded. And from that, we saw some clear key findings. Again, I may have shared these with you in more detail previously, but just to highlight some of the high-level findings for this purpose were people felt that it was high priorities to develop resilience to climate change and decrease the risk of flooding, increasing access to opportunities, jobs, services for all people across the region, expanding transit and housing options, and in the rural areas, a high priority for preservation of farming areas. So that CARPC has taken this results of this initiative and this public input process, and it started with regional development framework, which is really phase 2. So the first step was taking those priorities from the regional survey and working with the commission to identify, well, which of those are most applicable to land use and development, and which are those that CARPC can have the most influence over. And that intersection of those criteria resulted in these 3 overarching goals: resilience, climate change, more access to jobs, housing, and services, and conservation, farmland, water resources, natural areas, and fiscal resources. And these 10 objectives that relate to those overall goals. The first one here, increase the percent of development that is compact, mixed, walkable, and where feasible, transit supportive, really addresses all 3 of those goals, and some of the other objectives are more specific to some of the goals. We tried to develop these goals, these objectives, I mean, so that they would be measurable, and we have developed potential indicators to measure those, and continuing to work on that. So in the late 2018, we shared these goals and objectives in the form of a survey to local government officials in Dane County. About 150 people responded. It was about a 40% response rate, which we were pleased with. And again, these are all either elected or appointed officials or key staff members like administrators. And the survey reinforced that there was strong agreement with the goals and objectives, as you can see from this chart here, which was responses to one of the questions, with the blue being strongly agree and the orange being agree. You can see high levels of agreement with the question, well, are the goals and objectives important? We also heard from people that many communities were already applying these goals and objectives within their own planning processes. We also got good feedback on ways to better, that some of the objectives should be modified to be more specific to land use and development and CARPC's role, and we did that. The ones I showed you on the previous slide reflected changes we made based on that input. So what have we been doing this year? Focusing on research both at the national and level, looking at regional plans, and at the local level, looking at local comprehensive plans. Identified 15 regions that were to investigate based on sources like MADREP's peer regions, recommendations from professors at regional planning and landscape architecture, and other best practices, examples. Here is a slide from the Salt Lake City region. A couple of the things that we found through our research was that a common way that a lot of these regional plans work to implement, carry out the similar goals that we've developed is to target growth, focus new growth as much as you can in higher density centers of activity, more mixed use areas, transit supportive, and usually with one larger metropolitan level scale center that serves the entire metro region, usually the downtown of the major city, somewhat smaller sub-regional centers that serve portions of the region, and then community centers that serve primarily those communities, maybe like the downtowns of local communities, as well as districts, employment districts, special industrial districts. Another thing I found from the research was how different regions implement their plans. I learned that, or was reinforced, that only a very small handful of the regions in the country have any type of land use authority granted to them by the state. The overwhelming number, maybe 95%, 98% are advisory bodies in nature. So they focus their implementation through education, incentives, and planning assistance, as opposed to those few areas like the Twin Cities in Minnesota or Portland that have some more enforcement authorities. Looking at the local comprehensive plans and the land use sections primarily, and the goals that within those in the future land use map, I found actually a fair amount of consistency with many of the plans, especially those adopted more recently, and especially in the larger communities, with this regional approach of identifying, focusing growth in more mixed use or centers, sometimes explicitly, like the City of Madison's comprehensive plans, but more often more implicitly through designation of planned mixed use areas, as you see in this slide showing the City of Stoughton, and those areas circled in red, planned mixed use areas with planned neighborhoods surrounding them. So what we're doing now, building on this research and also the population, household, employment projections that we've put together at both the county and the community level, starting the mapping phase. We are working with this program called Urban Footprint. It's a land use modeling software program. We did use it for the Greater Madison Vision Scenario Survey, and now we're using it to more explicitly map projected development in the region. So here's just a screenshot of the program. You can see here, you can click on a parcel and you can select from a menu of building types. Here's just a screenshot of a portion of that menu, and you can change it from one building type to another. Typically, of course, we'll be changing it from a lower intensity to a higher intensity use. And each time you do that, the program adds population. If there's jobs, it adds jobs. It also calculates, as you changing the land use, it is calculating a wide range of indicators in terms of things like infrastructure costs, tax revenue generated, household costs, trip generation, greenhouse gas emissions, things like that, that we will be using as part of the work too. So the mapping we're doing is guided by both the local plans, local comprehensive plans, and the regional goals that I mentioned. So in terms of the plan guidance, we are conducting map review sessions with local communities. I have one scheduled with the City of Verona coming up soon, and talking with them about what they see as the likely progression of development. First of all, maybe there's some areas that have already developed since we set up this base canvas and urban footprint in 2016, along with the MPO as a joint partner in this. And then there's some other areas that are in progress already of being developed, and those would be the first that we would start. These would be the first that we'd start clicking and changing the land uses on. There's some what we call HL, high likelihood development, and it's really imminent. Maybe it's going through the approval process, things like that. Logical extensions, once these fill in, this is probably the next area likely to develop, and then longer term areas of development beyond that. We also are gathering information about the types of development that planners and others expect to be going into these areas. We will also be guided, as I mentioned, by the regional goals, especially in terms of this mapping phase, by avoiding environmentally sensitive areas and avoiding farmland preservation, agricultural enterprise areas, particularly outside of extraterritorial jurisdiction boundaries. And so here's an example of a map that we'll be using some of this information. These are likely future environmental corridors that you see that CARPC mapped based on the land use attributes that meet the criteria for environmental corridor, wetlands, floodplains, steep wooded slopes, those types of lands. We will also, as part of applying the regional guidance, look to where there are planned, for example, where there are planned mixed-use areas or planned neighborhood areas. Use the comp plan as the guide, and also if there's a range of densities and mix of uses that are allowed or anticipated in the comp plan, then we may err towards the higher end of that because that would be more consistent with the goals and objectives. So that's really where we're at right now. We had hoped to have this initial maps done early next year, end of this year, more likely early next year, and the data outputs that produces, and that will then have a period of community engagement where we can get feedback and have conversations about how well this map performs relative to local plans, relative to the regional goals, as shown by the performance indicators that Urban Footprint generates. Maybe it performs really well and people are happy with it. Maybe there's some gaps, and we can have a conversation about how those gaps can get filled. We'll also have conversations about how the regional development framework can be best implemented through the update of the local comprehensive plans, which is how it will be updated. But what's the best process best way that can occur to help ensure that the regional goals, objectives, and the regional development framework and local comprehensive plans as they're updated are as consistent as possible. Ultimately, this will be a product that gets used to the extent that communities see value in it and that it aligns with your goals and objectives. That's really why we did the Greater Madison Vision Project, why we're getting feedback on the goals and objectives from communities, so that this product reflects your goals, your values, and your objectives. And then hopefully we'll be in a position to support that work as you update your comprehensive plans down the line. I know that Verona's will be doing that soon, and maybe the timing won't work maybe it will work or maybe it won't work for your upcoming update. Maybe you'll have to wait till the next update. I don't know. So yeah, that's my presentation. Quick timeline, as I mentioned, we did the projections and the research so this year already. We're in the mapping phase, and next year we'll be in the engagement phase, moving towards producing the draft and the final framework, I should say framework. And then just a note on how the regional and the local plans fit together. I mentioned we are working in partnership with the NPO, so the framework information we produce, the mapping that we generate in urban footprint will be used to provide inputs to the regional travel demand model, which is part of will be used for the update of the regional transportation plan, which kicks off next year. So you see the partnership or the relationship between regional development, regional transportation planning, something we've been working to improve on, better coordinate regional transportation land use planning, since they're so interrelated, get away from operating in separate silos like we've been doing in previous years. But the implementation happens through the local comprehensive plans, through the MPO's transportation improvement program, which also interrelates with local capital improvement plans. And that's my presentation. I'll open it up to any questions you may have, and I guess I'll leave so yeah.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Steinow? Seeing none, thank you very much for the presentation.
All right, thanks for listening and having me. Have a good evening.
You too. With that, I'll lose my place. I believe we are down to our final item, which is adjournment. A motion to adjourn would be in order.
I'll move to that we adjourn.
Motion by Commissioner Tucker-Long. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Powers. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. And we are adjourned at 8:08 p.m. Thank you.
See everybody on December 7th.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Aye.